How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys are doing great. In today's video, we'll be going over Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 18. Honestly, this chapter did disappoint me a little bit, and I'll tell y'all more about that towards the end, but there's still a few things worth going over and discussing for sure. Without further ado, let's go over what happened this month. So we started things off with Someri walking in on Kawaki while he's performing a hate crime against the elderly. "Don't worry, Someri-chan, I'm perfectly sane, we're just having a conversation over here," said Kawaki calmly. I mean, yeah, this part really cracked me up, man. Kawaki's obviously pissed at Amado for toying with his body like a science experiment, but he's mainly just interested in getting his limiters removed and getting stronger. Amado didn't appreciate Kawaki's threats, and to no one's surprise, it turns out that he installed a shutdown code for Kawaki just like with Delta. Then we move over to what's happening with Team 7 and the Shinju. Mitsuki introduces Ryu to Yodo and Araya, and right off the bat Ryu notices that Yodo is staring at him like he's a turkey on Thanksgiving or something. Ooh, I wonder if this will lead to something. Next up we switch over to Konohamaru and Matsuri, so yeah, they're just chilling I guess. Matsuri explains that she's super nervous and flustered when around him. Konohamaru tries to awkwardly comfort her, then she asks if it's okay for her to call him Konohamaru-chan. Which is what Moegi used to call him. This seems to make old Konoha-chan a bit uncomfortable. But then we cut back to Ryu and the gang. Ryu gets straight down to business and spreads his iron sand all over the place in order to sniff out Boruto, which apparently gives him a pretty powerful sensory ability that allows him to detect all sorts of things. And I guess one of those things he can sense happens to be bloodlust, which allows him to confirm that Yodo has the hots for him, if you catch my drift. They try to deflect obviously, and Mitsuki changes the subject by asking why the Shinju want to kill Boruto in the first place. Ryu says that Jura decided to kill Boruto because he was too big of a threat and too much of a hassle, mainly because he knew about the thorn bulbs. Sarda then suggests that, hey, maybe we can use the thorn bulbs to lure out Boruto, obviously in order to get a chance to free Shinki and permanently kill Ryu. But before we find out if Ryu will fall for it, we jump back to Amado and Kawaki. Kawaki finally wakes up and Amado was all like, Cool it. Amado immediately says that he'll basically remove Kawaki's limiters. The Shinju are simply too big of a threat not to, but he has but one condition before he does it. He wants Kawaki to implant the body he created for Akebi with a karma, so she can be revived using the data Amado implanted in Kawaki's karma. Kawaki explains that if the revived Akebi turns out to be an Otsutsuki, he'll kill it without hesitation. Amado basically says, "Fair enough, gang, but I'll definitely stand on business and beef with you if you try to pull that shit," which, yeah, makes sense for both of their characters, of course. Kawaki then refuses Amado's terms altogether. He explains that while he has no issues with reviving his daughter, so long as he can kill her afterwards, of course, if she turns out to be bad or whatever, but the issue for him is the sequence of events. He doesn't want to risk adding another potential enemy to the fight right now, especially without his limiters removed. So he says that he'll happily revive her after he's dealt with the likes of the Shinju, Load, and Boruto. Amado says that if he changes his settings from defensive to fully offensive, he can't guarantee his survival. Kawaki tells him that he couldn't care less, he just wants him to make him the biggest monster of the bunch, and only then can he be reunited with his daughter. Then we move back to check in on the happy couple. Matsuri is having the time of her life, but Konohamaru is having none of it and asks her to stop calling him Konohamaru-chan, since only one person called him that and is throwing him for a loop. Matsuri, of course, did not appreciate that one bit and flips out on him big time. I guess we'll have to wait until next month to find out if they'll actually fight, since that's never really a guarantee in this manga, but it seems like that's the direction this is going. I have a lot of thoughts about this little subplot, but for now what I will say is that a lot of the leaks for this chapter made it seem like Matsuri was just acting and trying to bait Konohamaru, but that really didn't seem to be the case in my opinion. She seemed genuinely into him until he quote-unquote rejected her and made it seem like he's got a thing for Moegi or whatever, but yeah, I think Matsuri is definitely being genuine in their interactions. Now, Ryu is a different story on the other hand, and I think some of the leakers may have confused him for Matsuri or just lumped them together, but yeah, Ryu's really just super smart despite being born like 5 seconds ago, giving me some super minor Meruem vibes in that respect. He agrees to Sarda's suggestion to pull out the thorn bulb as bait, but only to bait them into trying to grab it, which they fall for immediately. He confirms that they're up to no good and uses his scent to paralyze them. Not only that, he can also use his scent to control their movements like puppets, which I found pretty darn cool to be honest. And yeah, it turns out Araya has a Kenjutsu technique that seems to neutralize Shinki's iron sand, but we'll have to wait until next chapter to see how that one plays out. And that's pretty much how the chapter ends. Yeah, I mean, overall, the chapter was alright, I guess. I don't like to complain about the same shit every single month, but yeah, the pacing is really rough, man. This chapter just felt kinda short and super uneventful to me. It doesn't help that we still didn't get any action, and we're also still dilly-dallying about Kawaki removing his limiters. Like, I think it's been 4 months or so since I was first expecting Kawaki to remove the limiters. It's rough out here, bro. But by far, the thing that annoyed me the most this chapter was the Matsuri Konohamaru stuff. Like, I don't give a flying fluff about Konohamaru and Moegi romantically. Low-key, I barely care about these two in general, bro, but that aside, them having a blossoming romance is just something that's coming out of thin air right now. So I honestly can't be asked to take it seriously or care about it at all. This is horrible for manga readers since they barely saw Moegi at all, but even in the anime version where she's featured here and there, I don't think a romance was ever alluded to or developed in any significant capacity. Honestly, this romance subplot feels rather forced to me as well. Like, what's the point of its inclusion? The audience has like zero investment in Konohamaru and Moegi being lovers, and it's not necessary for us to care because obviously Konohamaru will want to save his childhood friend, regardless of whether they're lovers or not. So yeah, man, overall I'm not a fan of it so far, and it sucks too because Matsuri was one of my favorite Shinju, and now she's stuck in a lame romance love triangle subplot thing. It's lame and cringe in my opinion, but oh well. Moving on to the positives though, I'd say my favorite part of the chapter was the stuff with Ryu. It wasn't anything crazy exciting, but it was entertaining enough, and we got some newish info about why the Shinju wanted to kill Boruto, at least explicitly. Ryu also showed off some really cool abilities and stuff, so I'm fairly excited for the fight next chapter, assuming we get it anyway. Another thing I liked is that we got a lot of ammunition for Akebi being a potential future villain. There's a pretty popular sentiment online that Akebi might be revived as an Otsutsuki, which I think this chapter heavily supported. At this point it feels like a massive Chekhov's gun type deal. I'm not saying this will 100% happen, but like, it'll happen, dude, trust. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if Akebi gets made into a mini Shibai. Like, maybe Amado gives her all of the abilities he gave the other Kara members, plus more potentially, which were originally Shibai's abilities of course. I can kinda see it because Boruto does mirror old Naruto tropes in a lot of ways. We had Madara and Obito becoming mini Hagoromos in essence, and then Hagoromo himself showed up to give the protagonists power-ups. I can kinda see Shibai filling a similar role to Hagoromo in Boruto's story, but we'll see. On the whole, I'm gonna give Boruto TBV chapter 18 an even 7 out of 10. It wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't like offensive or anything, but it was just a tad underwhelming in my honest opinion. But yeah, what did you guys think of this chapter? Do you like the romance subplot? Are you enjoying the slower pace we've had for like half a year at this point? Do you think the Akebi stuff I talked about might come true? Yeah, just let me know your thoughts down below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Bye bye!